afternoon, everyone. So my name indeed is Laurence Duquerroy. So I work for the European Space Agency. We'll try to keep my microphone in front of my mouth. So I'm working indeed in the communication, connectivity and secure communication directorate for a specific program line, which is called Space System for Safety and Security. And I'm basically leading and coordinating activities with industry in the domain of space system for safety and security. And today I wanted to talk about indeed the market that we see for new innovative cybersecurity technologies for enhancing the resilience of satellite communication systems. So the challenges also behind this market and what we can do within ESA and within 4S, the Space System for Safety and Security program, can do for industry to develop and enter this market. Yeah, there are some little issues with the with the edit, but it's okay. Yeah, so basically 4S. So what is it? I will come back quickly. So it's a program line which was created in 2019 by member states. The idea is to try to push for the development of robust, secure SATCOM for indeed protected and resilient society and economies. So we are working, first of all, on everything related to cybersecurity and resilience of digital infrastructure. So can be for aviation safety, can be for critical infrastructure protection, but we are also helping governmental users indeed to with their operations. So can be for Coast Guard, maritime safety, public safety, crisis and disaster response. And we are working with two types of stakeholders. We have a partner for institution, and we help them to build their satellite communication solution in adequation with their needs. And in particular, we have been very involved with IRIS² at the very beginning and still now, indeed, to develop their solution. But we are also a partner for industry to develop indeed their new solutions and bring them to market. It's what I'm going to present today. So in cybersecurity, it's one of our topic of interest. We have some objectives related to cybersecurity. First of all, we want to try to identify and develop and support the development of innovative technologies, which would be required in the future to address the future threats, but also all the vulnerabilities which will appear because of the complexity, increasing complexity of satellite communication systems. So we try to work at technology level. We try also to work at business level and help companies to develop their business. So when we work with companies, we try to consolidate with them their business case, their business plan, try to put them in contact with potential customers. A third point, technology issue. It's back, okay. The third point is that we try to answer also to the lack of knowledge in cybersecurity in the space sector overall, and especially within the small actors of new space, by trying to support the development and the emergence of tools, frameworks, best practice, facilities that they could use, indeed to check if they have some vulnerabilities in their system, do some test, demonstration, and so on. Finally, we try also to develop the ecosystem. So we try in particular to support the newcomers, which were already working, for instance, in cybersecurity, but want to try to enter the space sector. So we provide indeed expertise once they have a project with us to try indeed to understand what could be the constraints and what they need to take into account, and put them also in contact with, for instance, operators. And finally, another point that we try to look at is about the use cases where satellite communication could be used to enhance the resilience, the cyber resilience of the society. So like, indeed, we are working on quantum key distribution, so distributing quantum keys for governmental services, or maybe using satellite communication to route sensitive data. So what I wanted to bring forward today is why we think there is a market behind. This is an emerging market for sure, but we think that there is a lot of opportunity behind. First of all, because there are these obvious drivers. what we can see is that the number of cyber attacks has increased over the past few years. Indeed, I am using here some cyber in-flight reports and figures, which are actually very good reports on this subject. So indeed, an increase of cyber attacks have been identified with a substantial increase in 2022. You can see here indeed where these attacks are, what part of a segment, let's say satellite communication segments they are targeting, so can be ground segment and user segment or the supply chain. The second notion, which is interesting, is about cybersecurity debt. So it's basically when organizations have failed to invest in cybersecurity for quite some time, and they have to catch up later on and put more money than they should have if they had really taken into account this from the very beginning. And cybersecurity debt is thought to be high in the space sector. And finally, the third market driver is, of course, the awareness of cybersecurity in the space industry because of past attacks, high-level profile attacks, and this conference shows indeed that there is an emerging interest on this. Then, how to quantify this market? Very difficult to do, because what we would need to understand is the quantification of the risk behind. So what cost a security breach, a security attack on the satellite communication system? Today there is no value, you cannot find any public information on this. It's really difficult to assess, so it's an information which is not known. But what can be said is that breaches or attacks can be very benign, but they can also have a major disruption of services. It's what we have seen 2 years ago on the CYSAT system. And this will not only impact the SATCOM system per se, that can impact also the customers of the SATCOM systems. In the case of the CYSAT attack, basically, we had some wind farms in Germany which lost connectivity and stopped, and were instead still a point. It could have had a very dramatic effect on the European energy market. Fortunately not. But there is a risk that to have this knocked-on effect when you have an interruption of services. Another point to be taken into account is that something which appears relatively benign can actually cause a reputational damage which is quite high. And this is very important to be considered, because satellite communications are more and more used as a critical component of connectivity for critical infrastructures, for energy grids, for governmental services. So yeah, the reputation is an important point to be addressed. So when we look at the policy offerings already today in the space sector, cyber threats are not addressed at all, likely because there is no information yet, no data, lack of regulation. So indeed that address mainly for the time of being the launch and the really physical elements, but nothing on the cybersecurity part. But nevertheless, this would be an interesting exercise to be done with insurance companies, indeed to identify the cost of the risk. Another technology driver for this market is, of course, at technology level. So here I think it has been discussed a lot today, but quickly, indeed, satellite communications are evolving. We are seeing, indeed, the digitalization, the cloudification, virtualization, in particular of the space segment. Increased use of COTS elements, software, hardware in the space segment, in the ground segment. Integration with terrestrial networks, like when we think about integration of 5G NTN with 5G terrestrial networks. So what the consequences of that is that you widen the attack surface, clearly. So you need to rethink about what needs to be done to protect this from these vulnerabilities. The second point is that if we want to have satellite communication integrated in, with terrestrial network, we will need to apply more or less the same level of standards in terms of security. So it's important that, let's say, the SATCOM industry work with, indeed, the terrestrial networks actors as well to work on these potential standards and regulation. And finally, a third point, I think it's clear now that security by design is the best option to start from the very beginning, indeed, to integrate security, because this has an impact on the cost, on the performance, so trade-offs are important. And finally, a last challenge with respect to this market, but a complex one. Today, indeed, this is regulation is starting to grow. There is this nice chart from the Cyber in Flight report where we see indeed some evolution, some addition year after year. We start with the NIS2. We have, for instance, the baseline from the BSI and DLR, which was presented last year at the CYSAT conference, so very interesting. We had also in France the Loi d'Opération Spatiale, which was also mentioned last year at the conference. So it's very good, but the issue is that this can lead to a fragmentation of regulation, standardization, leading in the end to a fragmented market. By that I mean that a company would like to comply. We want to develop a product for France, we'll have to comply with a regulation in France and maybe a different one in another country, which makes everything more complicated for them to design their product. So indeed, the EU space law will be very welcome, actually, to have, let's say, a clear, uniform regulation in place. So what we are doing now in the domain on forest, so what are the activities we are doing to help company to enter this market? So I have put together a few examples of the last project we have made. We have more actually, but just a few examples. First of all, I think it's about SatLink, ARCA SatLink. It was presented earlier in the afternoon, where we have helped actually CYSAT to develop and de-risk their new product, their new solutions, which is used indeed to protect satellite communication, internet communication, while maintaining indeed good performances. So it was one part of the project, and then indeed a bit related, we also offered the opportunity indeed to industry, and they took it to do some test, in-orbit demonstration tests with the OPSAT platform of ESA for their new space data link security protocol. So it's one thing that we have supported recently. We have this other project also related to post-quantum with Vision Space as a prime, where indeed they are also working on new solutions incorporating the post-quantum algorithms, so what was presented before in satellite data links. So they have started like a year ago, and indeed now the project is ongoing. And finally, another activity that we are supporting is this Space Cyber Range from Estonia. So basically it's under the lead of the Estonian Space Office. Estonia would like to develop their own space cyber range, basically offering to European actors, SATCOM actors, the possibility to come and test new software, new components, end-to-end solutions, test indeed vulnerabilities, etc. Do also some trainings. So what we are doing right now is that we are supporting two concept studies, two parallel concept studies of two different consortia. And in the end, we will one consortia will be selected to start the development of this space cyber range, hopefully expected in January 2025. We should start the development. So how do we work? Basically, what we try to do first is to identify indeed the activities and the innovative concepts and technologies on which we think European actors and Canada should invest in the future because they are thought to be innovative and will be likely very relevant in the future. So let's say we start with very low TRL technologies. So every year we have a work plan of activities where industry can apply. So it's invitation to tender, fully funded for a number of activities of projects on which companies can apply. So for this year we have indeed focused on, first of all, the security of 5G. non-terrestrial networks. So there are different activities. On post-quantum cryptography, we have activities as well on anti-jamming as well, with new concept to protect satellite communications from jamming. The application of a zero-trust architecture to LEO payloads as well. We have one or two activities about tools, capability for security assessment. And finally, with respect to multi-orbit constellations, we have two activities. One is looking about how to optimize VPNs for this kind of networks, and one is about secure and resilient routing. So this is the first type of activities that we have. We try to initiate by ourselves. But we are welcoming also proposal from industry. So when an industry as a company wants to develop a new product or progress in the development of this product, we invite them to submit a proposal to us, a project, in line with their own strategy, their roadmap, their business perspective. So this can cover any kind of segment, user segment, space segment, ground segment, or system. And any level of development. So in this case, it's not non-competitive. Each project is handled indirect negotiation separately, and we are, of course, it's not fully funded, but still it's funded up to 75% or even 80% for SMEs. So finally, yes, I wanted to mention this also this opportunity which is under investigation currently within ESA. We are thinking indeed about working on the development on an in-orbit secure telecom laboratory. And indeed, what we would like to hear also from you, from people developing solutions, is whether you see a need now to have additional assets to test in orbit some new technologies, some concepts, some protocols for satellite communication systems. So yeah, and also if you have any interest also to design, develop, and operate such an infrastructure. So we will be happy to get during this conference your feedback on this, and we will be in the booth also to get your feedback. And so to gather also concrete use case of what industry could need in the future. And finally, I'm finishing with a last slide, not related to cybersecurity, but it's another opportunity what we are launching within 4S. Basically, we try to identify the future end-to-end SATCOM solution for maritime safety, aviation safety, critical assets, infrastructure monitoring, automotive mobility, safety, IoT connectivity. So everything which has somehow a safety, security flavor or sovereignty. And which could answer to needs of institution, public regulated, private sector. This could be in Europe, and this could be also, for instance, for the IRIS² like Gov services, but not necessarily. So it could be a wider. And so we invite companies to submit system studies, to start working on defining the system, also to look at the business case, or to start to work on development of really critical technology or validate, to do some de-risking at that stage. So with this, that concludes my presentation. So I thank you for your attention. And we are at the booth if you want to discuss also further. And I'm looking forward to get your feedback on what else we should work on at ESA, on any areas, technical areas of your interest for in-orbit demonstration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the great talk. Do we have any questions?
Fulvio Sansone from Nexat. If you go back to the slide where you were presenting the different opportunities, voila, are those the general things, not the let's say the unsolicited proposals? Those are open invitation to tenders, which are actually open, or it's your overall plan?
No, this one is the permanently open call. So it's anytime. It's like the ARTES CNG, but maybe you know. Actually, it's the same call. It's called now technology and product. So it's I'm going in the details, but that can be for 4S, CNG, 5G, Skylight. For the ones who know how ESA ARTES is working. So yeah, but it's permanently open. So we can always and we can always discuss with with industry on new proposals. Thank you.
Any more questions? So you said you're taking suggestions for Oscar.
Yes.
Do you have any plan already how it might look like? Might it be a separate satellite that you can do tests on, or is there any consideration how this might look like?
I think it will be left open. The idea maybe would be to have a separate, indeed, in-orbit CubeSat. But if a company can come with maybe a satellite, can put like a hosted payload just for this, that could be an option. So we will leave it indeed to industry to define the best way to do it, more efficient way.
So you heard it. If you have spare payload on your satellite, this might be the chance to fly an ESA experimental satellite. All right, last chance. Okay, then thank you so much for the talk.